had to be you.
We are just going to be friends, okay?
Great, friends. It's the best thing.
It had to be you.
You realize, of course, that we could never be friends.
Why not?
What I'm saying is, and this is not a come on in any way, shape, or form, is that men and women can't be friends because the sex part always gets in the way.
That's not true. I have a number of men friends and there is no sex involved.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I
You
do.
only think you do.
You're saying I'm having sex with these men without my knowledge?
No, what I'm saying is they all want to have sex with you.
They do not.
Do too.
They do not.
Do too.
How do you know?
Because no man can be friends with a woman that he finds attractive. He always wants to have sex with her.
So you're saying that a man can be friends with a woman he finds unattractive?
No, you pretty much want to nail him too.
Hi, I'm Angel Davis of Angel Davis Coaching, and you are listening to Verbally Naked. I am here with Mr. Peter Hermes.
Hi, Angel.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Good.
Yeah. So, for those who are tuning in, most of you may have known what that clip was from. I have a confession. Today was the first day I watched this movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
I had asked you if you'd ever seen this movie.
Yeah. So,
and you said no.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Most people know that I am not a big rom-com person.
This is one of the original rom-coms.
I know. It was so, for those who also are tuning in for the first time, our podcast is devoted to the enhancement of relationships, or so we hope. And so Peter and I have been taking a look at how media, all different types of media, influences our ideas of relationships. And so we decided to take a look at rom-coms, but
This rom-com.
but Peter, well, yes, but we talked about other rom-com, not did the podcast, but you and I have talked about other rom-coms, and you decided that I had to start with like the Bible, apparently, of all.
Well, it's a good one. It's an old one. You still
Rom-coms.
haven't seen Annie Hall. We'll get to that one eventually.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen all of it. So, yeah, Peter, this was the movie that you wanted me to see. So,
Yeah. So we were trying to figure out what we were going to do for this podcast, and last week we did animated movies, Disney movies, and what were we going to do this week? And I think we were going to do a different movie, and I think we kind of came up with let's do When Harry Met Sally, and Angel said I'd never seen it, so we watched it. She watched it for the very first time today.
I did.
And
did.
we watched it over lunch. And what did you think? Just your first overall impression of this classic romantic comedy from the late 80s?
Yeah. It's really funny because I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I've never. Well, yeah, I'm not a rom-com person, but it was cute. There were some interesting dialogue moments that I was like, that was an interesting take on, relationship stuff.
Some of the philosophies?
Yeah, so I would say I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't all Cheeseville.
Sure.
There were some moments in there that were interesting. I think overall I'd watch it again. I mean, I think it was enough for me to like think that it was clever, and I have a question for you, because this was a really big kind of most of the movie is based on this whole thing when they're first going off, to New York. And Billy Crystal mentions, well, men and women can't be friends. Yada, yada.
Because the idea of sexual attraction between men and women you can't get past that. It's always there.
Yeah.
Regardless. And he's saying from the man's point of view. Like, oh, well, actually, Yeah, the men's desire is the issue. Therefore, women can't be friends with men because the man is always going to want to sleep with her, not because she wants to sleep with him. So his philosophy is men and women can't be friends because there's always, that sex is always on the mind. So
is it?
I think that men and women certainly can be friends. I have plenty of friends that are women.
Oh, do you?
Oh, I do. I think that I think that this movie deals in generalizations and stereotypes, just like most Hollywood movies. And I think what they've done is they've wrapped men into the Billy Crystal character, or at least the mindset of a certain subset of men, the stereotypical man,
male, yeah.
But I don't think that they did that with her. I don't think that she represents women. She's just,
I hope not.
But he does represent, or at least at the beginning, he represents a misogynistic jerk guy.
Yeah, or at least to her, it's hard to say. I mean, yes, from our point of view, that he seems to fit that bill, but does he fit that bill because of, that's who he is, or is that how she sees him? And it's through her eyes that we're really kind of seeing his...
I think he's kind of a jerk.
Okay, I'm just saying.
He's unapologetically man.
Whatever that means, yeah.
So, anyway, can men and women be friends? I think so.
Without there being some kind... So you have girlfriends... Sexual tension. Yes. So you have girlfriends
Certainly.
who you don't have the desire to sleep with, and you better say yes.
Well, even if you weren't sitting here, certainly. I think people can be people. I mean, people... Our brains aren't wired to just have sex with everything. I mean, some people...
Yes, certainly not women.
Well, what do you think? Do you have friends that are men that can men and women be friends? Do you have friends that are men that don't want to sleep with you?
I have no idea if my male friends want to sleep with me. I would think not. And I can't say over the years if anybody hasn't. If so, they've never really said anything. I don't know. I certainly have guy friends that obviously there's not there's no sexual attraction going on. Mm-hmm. We're attracted as friends and for camaraderie and closeness or whatever. Mm-hmm. I will say that all of my relationships we have all been friends before.
Sure.
Yeah. Like I have never really dated a guy based on like, hey, I'm interested in you. Want to go out?
Right.
No, like all of my relationships, I've known, one. There's one right before Brad who I would say his friend, I had met him but didn't know anything a lot about him other than he was a little quirky. Mm-hmm. And so that, but so it's hard to say. I'm like, well, I've had friends that it's developed into more. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. I think, yes, it's possible that you can have male, each sex can have the opposite sex as just friends.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Certainly.
Yeah. I cannot say what my male friends have.
Of course.
Because they've never said. But I mean, I wasn't that girl for most men in my lifetime, I would say. So.
Okay.
I wasn't the Meg Ryan cute that you call her.
Oh, she was America's sweetheart there for about a decade. Mm-hmm. And if you rewatch this movie, just pay attention to the makeup that they put on these actors.
Man.
It is heavy
on. And they were young to have so much.
They are certainly selling. Like, let's talk about the movie. Like we've sort of
okay.
We've talked a little bit about what we think is kind of the crux of the movie is can men and women, and
Yeah.
they sort of prove that.
Well, I mean, that's
Ultimately, for them, no,
No.
because they end up together.
Right.
But in the middle there, they have a long stretch where they are the closest of friends. Now, they don't really get into the Billy Crystal's character's brain on like, does he want to sleep with her this whole time?
right.
Because when she calls him over, when she finds out that her ex is getting married, and she's all weepy and all of that, and they sort of start to make out, there is no resistance. It's on
Yeah.
as far as he is concerned. Like, she's vulnerable.
Well, they do allude to it a little bit when they're at that party. The part that you like, the Pictionary party.
Oh yeah, baby fish mouth.
And yeah, Bruno Kirby. Yeah, so they're doing the Pictionary, and both of them are with someone else, and when
Right.
they are with, their best friends, Bruno and
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher. So she's with Carrie, and she's away from her guy, and Billy Crystal and his woman are away, and she's like, do you think that his girlfriend is right for him?
Mm-hmm.
And vice versa, that happens with Billy Crystal. He's asking Bruno, well, what do you think about her guy?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they both have this like face when they see the other one kissing the other one. So there is a little bit of
Certainly. Okay.
yeah. They start to introduce that, there is something happening that neither one of them is super clear on or willing to bring up or talk about.
Gotcha. Well, that brings up an interesting point also.
What?
Which is what we wanted to talk about also, was the difference, at least how this movie presents it, and the difference between when men talk to each other about women and then when women talk to each other about men.
Oh,
And this
yeah.
movie certainly deals with that. So, the first conversation that I think that in the movie where it's the women chatting
Yeah.
is right there at the beginning. It's probably 10 minutes in. They're already past the first 5 years later. So the movie is introduced, and
Right.
Billy Crystal, they're at college in Pennsylvania somewhere, and she gives him a ride to New York, and they meet each other, and they realize that
Right.
they don't like each other, and they both have their
Right.
foibles and whatever, and then they split ways, and then there's this 5 years later, and Meg and Carrie Fisher and another woman are sitting
Yeah.
in a restaurant in Central Park overlooking the pondy, lakey thing, and they're talking about being single and
Yeah.
needing to find a man.
Oh, like desperately so.
Like,
too.
it's ridiculous, and we both kind of looked at each other and just like, oh my gosh, that's Hollywood right there.
Yeah, but yes, but I will say that's also 80s Hollywood, because I would like to think that shows like Sex and the City, and I have not watched this show, but I know enough about it. Girls, and all of those sort of later. Well, you know what? To a certain degree, even Seinfeld, Elaine was her sex life was often kind of out there in conversation, and I think those movements showed more about, yes, it involved relationships and, blah, 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 but it also just was like, not all women that's their whole end all and be all, is to, get married and have kids. And it was less of that. Sex was certainly happening, Sex in the City, but
Right.
it wasn't necessarily about that was their whole goal. Like, you have some career-driven women, some so yes, you're absolutely right that this movie definitely,
Well, this movie, the whole thing is about relationships. There is
Yes.
no mundane conversation throughout. The whole thing from beginning to end is about men and women getting together.
yes,
There are no even like when Billy Crystal and and Bruno Kirby, when they have their conversations, it's always about their relationship. It's always about,
Yeah.
the last breakup. But the way they're framed, the women are always either shopping or doing wedding dress stuff
Right.
or sitting in a nice little thing having
And
wine.
they're just
and the guys are always
desperate.
at a baseball game or hitting
Oh
balls.
yeah, they're doing
or
very manly stuff.
doing
oh,
sports.
by all means.
It's such a stereotype.
Yeah. Well, if they're gonna talk about relationships,
They gotta be watching baseball
It can't
or
be
whatever.
over dinner.
Yeah. So there's a macho scene where they're hitting balls at the batting cages, and they're talking there, but every conversation is centered around
Relationship. Yeah. I mean, this
This-
movie is specifically
it's
about
a relationship movie. There is nothing else
No.
to the movie.
Yeah.
It's about both of them had their major significant other. Both of them got their heart broken to a certain degree.
Yes.
And
for
then
sure.
they actually help each other as friends through that. So Billy Crystal has his, what was her name? Helen or something
Helen,
like that.
yeah.
And then Joe is hers.
Yeah.
And then she finds out that Joe's remarrying.
Right.
And it sets her off. And then he sees Helen with her new man in the Sharper Image,
Right.
which was very 80s. And he goes into a depression for about a week or whatever, and ends up blowing up and trying to alienate himself from his friends just because he can't handle it. It's the whole movie is about
Yeah.
when Harry met Sally, when relationships
Well, yeah.
happen.
I mean, that's it. But I do agree with you that the women, it's so. I mean, it's.
Well, Carrie Fisher
I mean,
has a
the guy-
Rolodex
I-
of men. She has a Rolodex of men, and then
she,
she
like,
finds
she
out a man is
earmarks them.
he's married, and she earmarks it and puts it back in the thing
Well, because he
might
might
get
be
divorced
single.
someday.
Exactly. He might go.
There's even the line, "Oh, you and Joe broke up? You mean he's available?"
Right
come
away.
on. I know. Not like, would you mind? Like, it just happened a week ago, and she's like, "Oh, he's available." It's just like,
Yeah.
I think she was just going to go and mark it in the Rolodex, but I mean, it's
And it was
it's
almo- I-
ridiculous.
I feel
she's
like-
the pimp.
I feel like there was even a moment in that same conversation where I feel like they say something like it's better to be like divorced at 40 instead of to be like single in 40 or never have been married by 40.
Something-
It
I
was
don't remember
something
what the
like
line
that
is,
where
but
it
it's-
was like,
it's
well, at
not
least you
good.
were married once.
At least you got married.
Yeah, it was
Something about how one of those people died. Wasn't it like they were married? You better marry because do you remember what happened to Roger?
right.
You know, that he died. Well, at least she can say that she got married. Or something.
Yeah, it was
and
something weird,
And then
yeah.
Meg Ryan's like, "What? I gotta get married?" In case
Right.
Anyway, it's a little bit ridiculous. And
Yeah,
then the men.
and but the guys, even though they talk about the relationships, it's not a desperation. Like with the women, it's this desperate need to to have. And with the guys, it was just more like, this didn't work out. I don't really like that one. What do you think about this?
Right.
But there wasn't like this desperate, like I'm never going to find someone. That I don't think that ever came out of Billy Crystal's mouth. And on the female side, it was like, oh my
No.
God.
And they both date throughout the movie other people. And,
Yeah.
But, they even compare and contrast relationships with each other and who had the worst date.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I will say that I still think to a certain degree there is still a level of desperation that creeps up in the rom-coms even of now with women particularly.
Mating is important. At least the movies tell us that. So anyway, so the movie goes along, and at the beginning of the movie they don't like each other, and they set him up to be, the man, the man without a filter, basically.
Yeah.
And they set her up to be this neurotic, OCD.
Oh, she's high maintenance.
She's super high maintenance. She
She's
has to have
that
things a
horrible
certain
like
way.
Starbucks coffee orderer person.
Yeah.
I want my coffee.
But that's sorta all
grounded
they give her.
light
Like,
and
she's got her
blah,
friends,
blah
but-
with, yeah.
So anyway, then they reconnect, and then they go away, and then they reconnect, and then they become friends after his divorce.
Yes.
So he finds out that his wife has been cheating and is leaving. We find all this out at a baseball game while they're doing the wave. So
Of course.
they have to have the calm in
Right.
the rom.
Well, sure. I mean,
So the whole stadium's doing the
The wave.
wave, and he's telling this horrible story about
and it's a
how she
it's a
called the
sad
movers before she
monologue.
even told him that she was leaving him.
Yeah, like that was. I mean, just
It's-
that line
yeah.
itself. It was like the movers knew
Yeah.
longer than you did that your wife was leaving you.
Right.
I mean, it was just a very. It's an actual really sad monologue,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just and I think it was very well done. It was a very sweet. I mean, I don't want to say sweet, but it was a very genuine conversation
Mm-hmm.
of this heartbreak, and then right in the middle is the wave, which, because rom-com can't go too far dark. But once again, they are at a baseball game. He couldn't be sharing. They're not like, they couldn't just be at his house having a
of course.
beer or whatever. No, it's,
Right.
yeah.
So then he and Meg reconnect. I don't remember how, but it's New York City. There really aren't very many people there. I mean, you're going to run into people all the time in a city of 8 million
Yeah,
people.
that might have been a little oversight on the movie.
Yeah. So anyway, they become friends and they help each other through, and it's montagey. It's clear that they're close
they're friends. They become really close. Yeah.
And then he sees the ex and he has a moment. And then this is later in the movie, she calls him up and says that her ex is getting married.
Right.
So he goes over to comfort her and they end up
Sleeping
having
together.
sex.
Yes.
And then, which I think as an audience, we're like, yeah, this is proper. I mean, it seemed like they were such close friends. They watched,
it's like
they
it's
watched
obvious.
movies on the phone together.
Sure, it's
They
obvious.
went to museums
Yeah.
and laughed and joked and all. I mean, they were a good couple.
Yeah.
You're rooting for them, and
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, good, they finally have broached the topic.
Yes.
And neither of them, I don't think, had set out to do that. It was just an emotional moment, and it just kind of happened.
Right.
And then in the morning, he freaks out and runs away. And so,
Wait. Isn't that what guys do?
well, that's what I wanted to talk about. Like that's what like high school guys do. I think that
You think?
that's what
Certainly you didn't do that in your lifetime.
never. But I feel like these two are grown adults, and I thought that I understood in the terms of like storytelling and movie making why they needed to have that happen, because then something bad has to happen for the Hollywood ending to make sense. They can't just be like, oh, well, here we are, and then it all works out. Well, no, I mean, you have to have.
Well, you have to have an illusion that it's not going to work out, and
Right.
how is it going to get fixed? And
But in real life,
Yeah.
I feel like that might happen with some people, but like that seemed to me like that freak out in the morning wasn't warranted.
yeah, you were.
They show like her snuggling like the next morning, and she's super happy and comfortable with this guy, and the camera pulls out and he's just staring like, what the hell did I just do? And it's just like, I didn't quite understand. It's not like it was the look as if like, oh, I just cheated on my wife, or
Right,
it's one
right.
of those things where it was
Yeah.
like, this is perfect, neither of you are attached anywhere else. This seems like a good thing. And so I didn't understand
I like that.
in real life why that there was the
That
freak
was that
out. I
moment.
understand in the terms of
Scripture.
it was like an act 3
Yeah,
transition and all of that, but I mean that's storytelling devices. In real life, I don't think that played true for me.
I like the fact that we're breaking the stereotype right now, because you're the one that's bringing up, why did he freak out?
Right.
That's typically, right? That's my role, right? And aren't I supposed to be the one that's like, and you're supposed to be like, well, right? I think if you want to try to analyze the character's choice of that, I think because he comes from the world of men and women cannot be friends and have, because of the sex, right? The
So
chemistry.
you think they just ruined the friendship?
I think that because he
That begs the question: can lovers not be friends?
Sorry. Well, No, I think they can be, and I understand you saying that, but I think for him, it was just that he was under the illusion at this point that he was wrong and that he could actually be friends with her, even though there were moments that they were showing that they're obviously starting to have some feelings.
Well, they had the
But-
the URST, the unrealized sexual tension.
Right,
And we had talked
yeah,
about that.
Yeah. So
And once that sexual tension is realized, and this is in terms of like TV shows and movies.
Yeah.
Once it happens, that's the end of the show. That's the end of, like,
Right.
there are whole seasons of TV shows that
Well,
are
Frasier.
based on them not getting together.
Frasier's based on that.
Does he finally get together with Roz? Or are you talking about Niles?
No, I'm talking about Niles and Daphne.
Yeah,
but-
there are whole shows based on
Yeah,
if they ever
but-
get together, the show isn't interesting
Yeah,
anymore.
and they got together towards the very last
Right.
part of the show. But yeah, I think for him it was just maybe a moment of, well, our friendship, what do we do? Where do we go from here? That
Right.
in his mind of we cannot stay friends just by his logic, because now we've introduced sex. So now
Right.
how is this going to work?
Well, that brings up a couple of questions for me. How, like, men and women see sex differently, or at least in the generalizations and the stereotypes. It's generally accepted, I guess, that women find sex to be way more important and all of these things than men. It's always shown that men is like, sex is whatever. Well, yeah, you have sex and whatever. And women is like, well, that's a connection that you can't, and so
Which
talk about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, going back to my statement of talking about the later shows and movies, Sex and the City, Girls, all that, and I think, I think that those are proving that no, women have desires just like men, and they're not always looking for a major relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They're not always looking to hook. They sometimes want you to go. Like, they're done.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Right? And I think that is a later conversation that has now been brought to light, and women are, there's much more expression there. In fact, I remember with my girlfriends, we were talking, just, joking around one time, and I was laughing about something, and Brad had asked me about something, and I don't remember what the comment somebody texted, and he was like, I'm beginning to think that and understand that you guys are exactly like me and my friend, like your car. I was like, yeah, like we it's the same thing. Like, there's no, like, the conversation we were having at the time, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that was very, like, he was surprised. We were very candid about something that was happening, and it was something that he related more towards, well, that's what guys do.
Right.
And it was like, well, yeah, we're not back in the, we can wear pants now. Like, it's
Right.
okay. It's okay.
Well, there's
Like-
a line after they get together where he's like, why, or she said, why are you acting like nothing happened, or something to that effect, and he says, why does it have to mean everything? Like, to you, why does it mean nothing? And he's saying, why does it mean everything? And that,
Right.
and that, for the time or whatever, for some people,
I understand.
that is a real thing.
Right,
Men are just like,
Right.
whatever, I banged her.
That is what, exactly. That
and-
is what,
Women are never like, yeah, I banged him.
yeah, that is the, that stereotype is widely accepted, I think, of the difference between, how males view sex and women view sex.
Right.
In her case, it was just because, like, I mean, we've been friends for years, and this isn't something like, why wouldn't it mean anything?
Right.
We've already have the intimacy, and now we've brought in sex, so why
Right.
wouldn't it? Which I get that, but yes, they're setting it up to be like, he was making a general statement of, to you, it's going to be everything because you're a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, her response was like, because it's us.
Right.
Yeah. Which I hope translated because I took it to mean that.
Sure.
I got his point of view, but I thought her response was too, because it's us, you idiot.
Right.
Not because I think going to bed with everybody is, important or whatever. And even if it was for her, that's how she views sex, not all women.
Right. So, okay, so they have sex and he freaks out, or he has this flight,
Yes.
fight or flight. So
Yes, he flies away for
they
a
have dinner
bit.
that night.
Yeah.
And he, they have these little internal monologues. I hope that she says it was a
Well,
mistake.
all right.
And so it's a mistake, okay?
Right. Yeah.
And then their friendship crumbles. And then they go to a party and they have it out.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically has that conversation. Why does it have to mean everything? And then she takes it as, oh, I was just a rebound, basically.
Oh, your language.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I have to make this a rated R.
This one's rated R now. And so she slaps him, and it's an unforgivable. And then for the rest of the movie, he is trying to call her constantly, and he's singing karaoke on her answering machine, and he wants to apologize, and all of these things. And finally, they talk, and she's like, "I'm done with this. I'm not interested." And then New Year's comes, and he's alone, and she's going to the party, this New Year's party that has happened before in the movie. It's the thing that they all do at New Year's, and he is by himself walking around New York City, and then there's the montage
Yes.
that happens where the theme song that plays ad nauseum throughout this movie, It Had to Be You, starts tinkling in the background,
Yeah.
and he starts remembering the conversation about men and women, like from the first time they met. So the movie takes place over 12
years, I
years.
think, yeah.
So they meet in college, or like they graduated.
Yeah, so there's the montage
Right,
and
in
his
5
arc
years.
of realizing slowly
He realizes that he
loves her.
loves her, and
Yeah.
his walk turns into a run,
Of course.
and he's racing against the clock to get to that party. He gets there, and we have our Hollywood ending.
Yes.
Where they see each other, and he
Confesses.
gives his little speech. I love you because of all your perfect imperfections.
Yeah. But you loved.
Which is memorable. And she's like, I hate you because you make it impossible to hate you. And that, I
Yeah.
really hate you, but
Right.
you get me. I get you.
Yeah.
And I hate that that's the way it is, but that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their big Hollywood, the camera spins around as they kiss and all of that stuff. And then the movie's over, basically. They set up in the movie all of these couples, these elderly couples throughout the movie that
Yeah.
sort of like
Yeah.
they give their
How they met.
stories.
how long they've been
And I
together.
thought that they were real couples, but when you go into the credits, you realize that those were actors. And some of them were fairly believable.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they're the final sit-down couple.
Unless they were. I don't know, but
And so that's a Hollywood ending. If I've ever seen one where things are terrible.
yeah. Have you ever ran? I need to know
No.
this. Have you ever ran to
No.
because it happens a lot in
No.
the movies, and I
I've
figure
never
that this is
chased
based
somebo-
on. It
I've
has
ne-
to be
yeah.
based on.
I've never chased anybody down right
men
before they
who
got on an
chase.
airplane at the airport.
No.
I've never,
Next time we go on a trip,
yeah.
can I go ahead
And then I'll
like,
chase you down and we'll
please?
make a big scene.
please?
But that's the stuff that movies are made out of. You don't see that in real life. So that's the Hollywood ending. The whole time he's walking around New York City, I'm just like, he should get mugged right now. That would have been perfect because that would have been real,
Right.
So I know.
Okay, so so then let me ask you, how do you think this relationship stacks up to what we know as, or what you and I define as real?
That's a good question. I mean, it's certainly a well-written Hollywood story. complete with all of the 10 minutes you have to have this and all of those things.
Well, you know all of that stuff. I don't know, but
What I liked, and this was a question I was going to ask before, is it important to be friends before you date? Second question is, if you're not, and you go into it, some people have the theory, I don't want to be that person's friend, because when it goes bad, that's two relationships that have been destroyed, our friendship and our relationship. So if I'm not friends with them in the first place, they're sort of expendable in a certain way, emotionally. Like, you date your friends and it goes bad and something happens, well, that person could not be your friend anymore. So you had mentioned that a previous relationship, you weren't friends. Did you become friends while you date? Like, as you dated? I mean, obviously you got to know each other.
yeah.
Like I certainly in my past have dated friends, and I would say most I would still consider friends. Like, I'm not like palling around with these people or anything, but I can't think of anybody that I can think of that's that relationship ended when we broke up as a romantic couple. Like, the friendship always survived.
Okay.
So I'm just, do you think it is important to have a relationship before the relationship?
Yeah, I do. I'll admit it. I do. I think it's good to be, I don't know. I'm of the mind, why do you want to date somebody you're not friends with? I mean,
Right.
but it obviously it develops into that they become somewhat of a friend to you. I would assume, over time. But I don't really talk to. So I haven't had very many important, I would say, relationships in my life. I don't really talk to the two prior to Bradley, but if one I just lost contact with, the other one we occasionally will message each other, but it's very rare. But sometimes I'll just reach out and see how he's doing. So we were able to stay somewhat connected. Like, eventually there was no ill will. I was able to let go. I mean, he cheated in our relationship, so that was a little tough to get through. But we did, because my whole thing was, well, we were friends to begin with. And so it was like, how do we get
Right.
back to that and get past this? And I think that we eventually did. I really do. But so yeah, I do. People don't do it, obviously, but I never. My mom used to always tell me never, especially never sleep with someone who you don't want to be the father of your children. And that by the way, parents, for me was really good, a good deterrent for me, I guess, because there's a lot of people that was like, you're cute, yeah, I'm not gonna be linked to you for the rest of my life.
Sure.
Right? But therefore, for me, it was like, if I got close enough to someone, I could be like, I could see you being
Sure.
more than that, so I do. Can I talk about whether I think this stacks up to?
Please. I mean,
I think there were aspects of their overall, if you look at the entirety of their friendship relationship, I think there were some moments that did stack up. Like, the things that, drove him crazy and her crazy are also what slightly attracted them to each other, because they were so opposite.
certainly.
And I think it actually really reminded me of you and me.
Oh, did it?
It did. I mean, you and I agree on most of the heavy hitter things,
Sure.
but we definitely differ in a lot of ways that drives the other one a little bit crazy.
I agree with that.
And yet, we're super drawn to each other. Yeah. And we were as friends.
Right.
Like, we had an instant connection. But for back in the way back,
Right.
And I think that was a part of it, is like we didn't know exactly all the little things that we were differed on, but we had enough conversations and snarkiness to know that there was some definite difference.
Sure, of course. But there are those, imperfect,
Right.
perfect imperfections or whatever
Yeah.
the line is. But
Yeah.
And those are the things that I think strong, healthy relationships are anchored on to a certain degree. Everybody's got their thing, their personality, their baggage, their whatever. Like when Harry's got his neurosis and his
Right.
all of those things, and she's got her. I mean, they'd certainly set her up to be like this OCD,
high maintenance.
high maintenance and all of
Very
those things.
similar to exactly how she was in Sleepless in Seattle.
Well,
But yeah.
she just played herself in all those movies back in the 80s. Because she also did...
Yeah, French Kiss.
French
She's
Kiss
a little
and
bit
this-
like that too. Oh my gosh, she
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
sorry.
But it's a good relationship is... Can you handle those things? Because
Yeah.
if you find that stuff annoying in your partner, you got nowhere to go but
Yeah.
more annoying, because
Right.
that's who they are.
Right.
And
Or
they're-
if you find it annoying in your friendship, certainly don't
right.
go further.
But with us, I mean, we certainly I have my quirky things that you have to put up with, or,
Yeah.
and that you say that, annoy you, and I'm sure that they do, but not to the point where you're trying to change me.
No.
And the same with you,
No, I mean, it is who you are.
So
I think and I think in terms of the way they communicated, that is what to me was a little, I don't know. I mean, maybe not. I mean, there was a lot of conversations and things going on about how to go about relationships. And I think that still happens with all these, like, it seems like there's always rules. There's rules and how things are supposed to go. And it just seemed like once they finally were able just to communicate and admit what was there, it was like, then, the love was there, and then they could actually like be in a relationship. But all the pandering and all the stuff outside of that, I feel like, at first I would say it's not realistic, but then I'm not sure. I was just talking to a friend about that earlier today, that's still going on. A lot of like these rules, instead of just like, me, I'm just like, hey, are you interested or no? Okay.
right.
And then you move on. So I think there were moments that made me go, oh, that's, and then there were, especially kind of the connection they had as friends, just when they were friends, when they decided to be friends.
Yeah, I think the middle of the movie where they're almost like gal pals.
Yeah.
I thought
Really?
that was sweet.
Really?
All right, whatever. I thought that was sweet. Their
Yeah.
friendship, like watching movies together on the phone.
Yeah.
And then he says all of those things at the end. I love that you're the last person I want to talk to
Yeah.
before I go to bed. I
Yeah.
love that it takes you an hour to order a salad or a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
So he has his little callback moments. Like, I love all of those things that at first annoyed me.
Right.
But now I realize that I can't live without that kind of stuff, and I want to spend
Yeah.
my life with you.
So those moments I found.
And at that point, I really wanted to go, no. You blew it. I told you already. You blew it.
It's over. No, I found those moments really, the friendship moments, the most endearing. And that's probably because that's what reminded me of, my relationship with you, and even my relationship with Brad. Brad was one of my best friends in the end. And you and I were friends. Brad and I knew each other, but I will have to say we didn't have quite the same connection that you and I had by the time. I mean, we had years of, but Brad and I, we'd done a couple of shows together, but we hadn't really, we had like an in-depth conversation one night, and that's when I was like, ooh, I want to know more about you. And that's when it moved into more. But he and I didn't have a very long stint of being friends, now that I think about it. But boy, did he become one of my, really good friends, obviously.
Sure.
And more. And that part to me was endearing because I was like, yeah, that's what it should be, right? You and I have a lot of fun.
We do.
All right. Well, so I guess overall, we're a little mixed on this one.
Yeah, it's certainly a cute movie. It's a Hollywood movie.
It's a romantic comedy.
We didn't really even talk about one of the major characters in the movie, which is New York City, which I felt a lot of movies that take place in New York City are big lies because they
Why?
romanticize that city.
Well, just
they only shoot at Central Park, and they only, you know what I mean?
know, but
if you've ever been to New
they
York
don't
City, or if you ever,
romanticize L.A.
oh, they romanticize it. If they shot a movie in Oklahoma City, they would try to romanticize
Well,
it.
then there's nothing to talk
But
about.
if you've ever been to New York City, or at least my experience, it's not that. It's a dirty, raw.
Oh, I think it depends
crowded.
on. Yeah, but you don't like crowd. Come on. I like New York. I think but I've had great experiences when I've been there.
I've had great experiences
Have
as well.
you? I'm not sure.
It's still a busy,
I'm not sure.
crazy city.
So join us next week when we talk about when Peter met Angel and the 12 years of friendship they had.
It has been.
It's been years.
We've had longer than that.
Yeah.
We've had 15 or 16.
Yeah, I'm Angel Davis.
I'm Peter Hermes.
And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. And as always,
Live
big.
It had to be you.